Welcome back to America Decides. Good to have you still with us. Pretty evident the divide is growing between some Democrats on Capitol Hill. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York, keep that in mind, has been on the airwaves today making it very, very clear she's not on board with Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, also of New York, and other Democrats who just recently have put the procedural wheels in motion to pass the Republican spending bill and avert a government shutdown. Let's listen.
I cannot urge enough how bad of an idea it is to empower and enable Donald Trump and Elon Musk in this moment. It is dangerous and it is reckless.
I want to bring in our political reporter panel, Kadia Goba and Mariana Sotomayor. Kadia is political reporter at Semafor, Mariana, congressional reporter for The Washington Post. So, Kadia, you were with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez today. She was pretty vocal. Is she indicative of the mindset of most House Democrats?
I would say most Democrats are very upset of how this shaped up, largely because many of them voted against this funding bill. So their reaction is, why do that? And then only for the Senate to turn around and support the bill.
And they had some at least nominal expectation that Senate Democrats would, for a period of time at least, hold the line. Some
sort of pushback. They just wanted Democrats in the Senate to fight just the slightest, just for all. I mean, she laid it, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez laid it out properly yesterday. She said there are a lot of vulnerable Democrats who put their district or put their name on the line all the time and vote in unison with Democrats. Why not give them some kind of respect and, you know, put up a sort of a fight?
So, Mariana, I want to play this soundbite. We started the show off with it. It's worth playing again because it's indicative of something going on. A question put to Hakeem Jeffries, the House Democratic leader.
Is it time for new leadership in the Senate?
Next question.
Is it time for new leadership in the Senate? Next question.
He was asked time and time again, multiple times, pressed on whether he thinks that Schumer is the right leader in the moment.
Answer. No, of course not. We're perfectly satisfied. Everything is good.
Yep. And he just kept saying, next question, next question, next question. I mean, listen, he is a New Yorker, right? He is someone who he is a very respectful kind of leader. I will say that. He tries not to elbow.
Yeah. Right.
He doesn't try to throw punches. It's very different. There is that level of respect. However, how should we be reading that? I am certain he and his team have a lot of thoughts as to how Schumer has handled this. And interestingly enough, Schumer actually ended up calling my Senate colleague Liz Goodwin this afternoon and kind of threw Jeffries under the bus a little bit. This was just after Jeffries was respectful about Schumer. Essentially what Schumer said was, you know, had I known, I've been talking a lot to Jeffries, had I known that Speaker Mike Johnson actually would have the votes and be able to pass this, I could have essentially started to talk to senators a little early. That's starting to ruffle some feathers, of course, among Jeffries' world, who very much have kept in the loop. I mean, we as House reporters knew for a majority of this week that the Republicans were going to be able to pull this off.
Defeat is always a place of plentiful recriminations, and the recriminations have already begun. But let's diagram the sentence a little bit here. And I was kind of cutesy about this in the read-in. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is rumored relentlessly, whether it's true or not, I want your insights on this, Kadia, to be considering a primary run against Chuck Schumer. Hakeem Jeffries is also from New York. They're all part of the same political family, more or less. Disturbances in that political family, in full public view at a time like this, will only add to the speculation about what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's actual motives and future plans might be.
Yeah, I think these three New Yorkers are in a very tight bond. And
generally.
Yeah, and at this point, I think they're in an interesting dilemma, I would say, in that there are, you know, who's to say that necessarily Hakeem Jeffries is always aligned with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, right? But, yeah, there seems to be some tension. I would say, though, that AOC was very aggressively saying that this is not just on Senator Schumer. She's addressing all of the Democrats.
All the Senate Democrats. Because if Schumer were by himself, there still would be enough Democratic pushback to at least force the Republicans to reconsider
That's
theirs.
right. He's not the only one that could force
Mariana, I
the
want to talk to you about Jared Golden, the only House Democrat to vote yes on this Republican bill. What do they think of him in the Democratic caucus generally, and what does Golden think about himself and why he did this?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I guess not surprising to all of the House Democrats that Jared Golden, who has constantly at many different points in times broken with this party to vote with Republicans, would do this. My understanding into his thinking is he realized kind of a similar argument that Schumer made. This is not a win-win situation. It's a lose-lose situation.
And Senate Democrats ultimately are going to fold, and whether they fold on Friday afternoon or next Tuesday, it doesn't matter. They're going to fold. I can see that as clear as day.
Right. And listen, as much as Jeffries and his whip team were really good at making sure that a majority of Democrats fell in line, he is very keenly aware that the way to get to the majority, the way that he gets to become speaker, is by making sure that those members who are in Trump plus 10, 12 districts vote the way that they have to vote. So it wasn't that surprising.
Let's not ignore the fact that I think the House was very aware that they needed 8 Democrats in the Senate to get this vote to the floor in the first place. So, you know, voting against the bill versus the government shutting down, I think that's a calculation that Hakeem Jeffries definitely considered.
And Mary, I want to give you the last word on this because it is worth taking a moment to notice that part of this whole Democratic House strategy, whatever it was based on an assumption that Mike Johnson would have a hard time, possibly an impossible time, passing this bill in the first place with only Republican support or maybe one Democrat. And he did. And he was in position to do it even without Jared Golden's vote.
Absolutely. I mean, it was impressive to see Johnson with the help of Trump, right? We've just seen how much House Republicans have struggled. This is the first time they've been actually able to fund the government, pass a funding bill on their own. And the reason why is because of Trump. That's becoming much more apparent to House Democrats. It makes it easier for them to be able to unite, except as you point out,
And when the basis of your legislative strategy is I think the opposition is going to fail, that has its own built-in problems. Mariana Sotomayor, Kadia Goba, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to have you at the table.